All right, good evening, everybody. Calling this Village Board of Trustees Committee of the whole meeting on July 14th, 2025 at 6:01 PM to order. Clerk Lauken, can I please get a roll call vote?
Yes, you can. Trustee Alfano.
Here.
Trustee Cordova. Here. Trustee Constatos.
Here.
Trustee Kozar.
Here.
Trustee Kumar is here, and Trustee Sabri.
Here.
Okay, if we could all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated. Okay, we are going to start with public comments. Clerk Lauken?
Absolutely. We have comments on agenda items only. Donna, are you going to, it looks like you crossed it out, but,
Well, one of those is 6 o'clock and one is 7 o'clock.
oh, very good. Donna, would you please start?
The details.
This is on Donna Knox, and this is on the dissolving of the commissions. I want to strongly state that I am not discrediting the newly selected commissioners. I know a few of them and their dedication. It's a process, and Kevin, you said you are solely the point person for this. So I'm just going to throw a few things at you. You didn't communicate to any commissions that they were deficient. You did not attend any of the commission meetings to share your new vision. Volunteers were eliminated by an agenda posting. Not cool, and I think that lacks respect to all the volunteers. With how you disrespectfully treated and dismissed the commissioners, how eager will those people be to volunteer in the future? I would have to bet on not too eager. No outline of how you're going to achieve your vision for our village. Running through the 623 in today's agendas, you have some buzzwords in there or statements. Allow more dedicated focus, emphasizing public safety, sustainability, community well-being, different powers and duties are the words I picked up on. And focus on XYZ. Those words are just word salad. If you can't use them in a descriptive way in your vision, basically those words are worthless. Few takeaways. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. You can't mistreat and disrespect people and then ask them to believe in your vision. It's evident you are listening basically just to be able to respond with canned answers, but you're not comprehending this full circle. I stood behind you 6 years ago, and you are not the same Kevin. Thank you.
Ivan Figura, apologies.
Hi, I'm Ivan. I wanted to address a couple things from Saturday's Coffee with the Board. Trustee Constatos, I noticed that you told somebody in the audience to not shake their head while you said something that you told the person to stop shaking their head because they were shaking at their head at something that they disagreed with. I found that unprofessional because obviously people have different opinions and people should be allowed to shake their head. And as somebody who got elected to that position, I feel like you shouldn't be allowed to call somebody out based on just because they disagree with you, whether what they're saying is misinformation or not. I don't think it's professional. Jack Kozar, I also, when Bob Wagner was asking you a couple questions, you kept avoiding his questions.
What were those questions?
He asked about why he wasn't notified the 2 weeks when you guys submitted the ordinance change. It doesn't matter whether you believe the question was relevant or not, you were also elected to that position, and you serve us and you represent us. And so if we have questions, we do have the right to ask you questions because you are representing us. So when somebody asks you a question, I would like you to please answer the question without evading the question, because again, you were elected to this position, and so we have the right to, and that'll be all. Also, I wanted to reemphasize the importance of junior commissioners. When the June 23rd agenda was posted, the reconstruction of the commissions, there was no reappointment of any of the junior commissioners, which to me was like, okay, you guys want more perspectives, you guys want fresh ideas, but to not reappoint any of the junior commissioners who are young people, who are people who likely will live in Villa Park for the rest of their lives, to me, it feels a little bit empathetic, and it doesn't really feel like it aligns with what you guys are saying about needing new perspectives. And also, reflecting on what everybody else is saying, the main issue here is due diligence. Nobody's doing their homework. Nobody's really reviewing anything. And if you are, you're not taking the careful steps of looking at everything. And these are all things I learned in high school. I just graduated high school, and my English teacher always told me, re-examine everything, reread everything, ask questions if you have any. And I feel like these are all things that could have been avoided if we took the time to carefully look at things and properly discuss them. And how do we move forward? Be more diligent, have these conversations, because this is why we're here right now, to have these conversations. So, yeah, thank you.
Mr. President? Yes. If somebody gets up and speaks and addresses one of the trustees, I'd like to think that the trustees can have an opportunity to respond to that.
Sure.
So, to respond to your pointing of the finger, essentially, is what you're doing, that I evaded a question from Bob Wagner. So Bob Wagner's question was, did AI write these ordinances? And also that he needed to be informed a couple weeks before everybody else, some sort of special treatment. And he also wanted to know in what timeline was certain information given to our village attorney. In Coffee with the Board, it's more of a dialogue, it's more of a conversation between everybody. That's why we have Coffee with the Board. If Bob Wagner doesn't like the answers, I would like to think that Bob Wagner doesn't put you up to speaking to the rest of the board, that Bob Wagner could come up and address those individually to the trustees. But I don't see what was evaded. Bob Wagner doesn't have a right to have information early. Bob Wagner doesn't have a right to know what the president and the village attorney are discussing. So it's not a matter of evading. Bob Wagner just doesn't always have the right to any question that he wants to ask.
I mean, as somebody from Villa Park or anybody who lives here.
Hold on, order. Your time was up, I apologize. This is back and forth, this is not a Q&A, this is not a back and forth. All right, please.
You only have a certain amount of time to get business done.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Joe. All right. You are next, sir. Let's get business done.
Joe Maury, 309 East Maple. You know, it wasn't that long ago that we were over at the new rec center celebrating what a wonderful achievement this village had come up with. Everyone loved it. We had dignitaries from all over the county and even some state representatives there. And it was about a year ago that we go by Lufkin and celebrate the great progress that's been made there. I smile when I go by that place in any hours of the day and I see people out there enjoying it. Even if it's a warm fall day or a warm spring day before our pools are open. So I don't want to lose sight of the fact that it was our Parks and Rec Commission that got that done. And the bottom line is this. None of those members were included in the new Garden Village Commission. So before we go any farther with your new plans, however it's voted in, personally, I want to thank Sam Bowsam, Sarah Collantine, Donna Noxon, Michael Storino, Cheryl Tucker, and Ryan Pizarro for all the great work and all the countless hours that they volunteered of their personal time to get these wonderful achievements accomplished. None of these people were included in any new commissions. And while we're on that subject, this Garden Village Commission will dissolve the Environmental Concerns Commission. And I want to thank all the people, even though I was on that commission, I was inspired by the other people there. We worked off each other, we fed off, we complimented each other. So at this time, I also want to thank Robert Wagner, Marianne Greco, Sandra Hill, Ellen Jerkanis, Alan Leishman, and Lynn Smith. And Lynn, good luck with your new appointment. Most notably, our junior commissioner, Ivan Figueroa. If we don't figure out a way to keep him motivated and working for this village, we are going to lose an opportunity to someone who's going to go very, very far in this world. So thank you all on the Environmental Concerns Commission for all your hard work and countless hours and bringing environmental knowledge to our village. Thank you.
Marianne Greco?
I was going to start with water fees, but I'll start with commissions because that seems to be where we are. Let's see. Just a little curious why, according to the memo, if the Garden Village Commission is mostly in line with the responsibilities of the Environmental Concerns Commission, why even need the change? I also want to strongly advise against not having a commission with the word environmental in the title somewhere. Environmental is so much more than just landscaping. It's so much more than ensuring that conservation, environmental stewardship, and beautification is on display in the village parks. No, environmental concerns is so much more than that. So please consider a commission that has environmental in the name. There's things like the lead pipe testing. We're a little bit behind as a village, we know it, and so this commission has been communicating with staff to just try to see and help see if there's anything we can do to get it on track. But an Environmental Concerns Commission with more commissioners, not less, could also address things like light pollution and noise pollution, not just the beautification of the parks. So yes, so please, as you're considering and discussing this, do try to have a commission in some form that encompasses all of environmental issues. And then the water fees, I get it. Water's going up. It's going to keep going up. That's just a fact of life. But water is something that is essential to human life. Compared to the need for clean water, accessible water, and in our society, accessible means affordable. That's just the way we're structured. Compared to that, the structure of the commissions, the petty infighting between residents and the trustees themselves is meaningless if we don't have clean water. So it might be too late this time, and it is a pretty nominal increase from the look of that presentation. But I've suggested before at previous boards, and I'd like to suggest again, looking into a tiered fee schedule. So, there's a certain amount that every household needs just for health and sanitation. So make that as inexpensive or free, like that would ever happen, but make those first 6,000 gallons free. And then, or inexpensive, let's be realistic, inexpensive. And then from 6,000 to 12, it's gonna cost you a little more per gallon. And then after 12, make it a luxury cost and make it very expensive. This would serve two purposes. It would definitely ease the burden on residents, and it would encourage water conservation. Between the processing and the pumping and the wastewater, that's a huge environmental impact. Thank you.
Vincent David?
There we go.
don't want to inconvenience anybody back there. So, hi, my name is Vincent Davis. I live on Myrtle Avenue, and I'm representing the Video Production Commission, and I want to speak regarding the dissolution of that commission. I recently joined that commission a few months ago after submitting multiple applications to the portal, and I literally had to email some people just to be like, I don't even know if my application was received. And that was frustrating for me because I'm just trying to give back in any way I can. I felt like I had an expertise that would be a benefit to the village. That aside, I felt a little blindsided when, of course, like everybody, we found out that these commissions were going to be dissolved. I had heard no reasoning why. I was kind of upset by it because I was really putting forth an effort to try to better the commission while I was on there, and I believe all of my fellow commissioners were as well. We were finally making some headway. We're finally trying to figure out our path, and one of the things that we hoped for was improved communication on all ends, not just from the board, but within the commission, from staff, just so we know we have a clear outline of what our goals are, have some SMART goals. Let me take out my notes really quick. I'm not texting anybody. We wanted some SMART goals. We wanted to expand the scope to include communications. We wanted to schedule village events and like ideas from the village, just tiered, basically, that say, these are what we're looking for. We really want media covering this, this, and this. That gives us a basis that we can jump off of and really make some positive headway. And lastly, we wanted to be able to report those deliverables. It's one thing to be able to start something and then, all right, it's done, and there's really no reporting other than in our agenda and board report or reports following. But to be able to speak on those things and have that clear line of communication back and forth, I think we felt was lacking. So I just want to leave with that. I really hope that the commission stays. I think we could make a positive impact. And I do really want to continue serving the village and helping to make a positive impact. I do love the village. And that's all I have.
Tom King.
Hi, good evening. I'm Tom King, and I live on Ardmore Avenue, and I'm speaking as a individual and not on behalf of a commission. But I want to be clear, like I said at the last meeting, I do support this new structure. I see it as a positive change. Our commissions need to evolve with changing time. They need to change with the newer demands of newer generations. We need a results-oriented and task-based approach to our commissions, with the ultimate goal of making our community better. And I see this new structure as doing that. For example, I'm currently on the Video Production Commission. Well, it started as the Cable TV Commission, and honestly, I don't know who now has cable TV. It really is kind of falling by the wayside. So I think that taking a deep dive and looking at the overall strategy of how commissions function and what the future vision of it needs to be accounted for. Now we have social media. Now we have streaming. Now we have the internet. That being said, I do see that there are existing members of commissions that, number one, exhibit passion to helping this community. Number two, have expertise that is useful for the new commission structure. And number three, have a volunteer willingness to help our community. So I'm going to challenge the existing commissioners that are here today and who are obviously not here. Find your ability to volunteer in this new commission structure. Find your ability to utilize your passion, your expertise, and your willingness to better Villa Park in this new structure that is more aligned with the changing time. Thank you.
Robert Wagner.
Thank you. Good evening, President Patrick, Village Board. I'd like maybe just a few seconds, if I could, maybe personal privilege, to say a few words. Just to say, before I get started, first off, I wouldn't assume anything. I would never ask anyone to speak on my behalf. I am perfectly prepared and to speak on my behalf. and I feel uncomfortable with my name getting bandied about. So I have moved on from June 23rd. I've moved on from June 12th. So I just want to say that. I feel uncomfortable with my name being bandied about here, and I wouldn't assume that anyone asked anyone to speak on their behalf, because that's completely false. I did not. So now I'll get started. So I'm here to talk about the commission reorganization, and I'm here to specifically talk about the Environmental Concerns Commission. And the thing that I would ask of all the village board members is to please be objective and look at each individual commission. It's pretty clear that the village is going through some turbulence right now. I mean, we've changed village managers. We lost some key people. So to throw out all these commissions with one fell swoop and not look at them individually, I think is not the way to proceed. With respect to the Environmental Concerns Commission, there's some things that came up on Saturday. One was commissions that can't achieve a quorum. I can't recall the last time our commission did not have a quorum. We consistently have a quorum. And I just want to say again that all the members on our commission are committed, talented people, and every one of them could step up into the chair position. The other thing I want to say about our commissioners is that they self-selected. They weren't chosen. They raised their hand, they filled out an application, so they are very committed. One thing I think that's critical for a commission is to have an active and participating staff liaison and village board liaison. And I know that staff has challenges. We don't always have a staff liaison at our meeting. And I know that they try. Mike Guerra is our official liaison. Vasily Voskresensky will come in his stead. So I'd like to see that. Be consistent. So far as our commission is concerned, Manager Harline instituted a procedure where all commissions had to submit a budget. We've done that 2 years in a row when requested. We're an active
Bob.
Yeah.
You've got 3 minutes. There's other people here too.
Okay, I'm going to wrap it up then.
Please do.
Okay. Just in summation, we table 4 times a year. We're an active commission. There was some talk about SMART goals. We have SMART goals for 2025 and 2026. So I would just ask you to look at these individual proposals separately. Thank you.
Nick Gazzone.
Nick Gazzone, 21 West Adams Street. Well, we have another behind-the-scenes decision by certain board members to completely revamp our volunteer commissions. Although I'm not opposed to that, I think Mr. King had some good points, that there's times that we have to change. But if we want to change our commission, this is something the entire village should be involved in. As a trustee, President Patrick always wanted to have residents to be involved in our major decisions. We took several months to name our new recreation center because Trustee Patrick insisted on getting residents' thoughts. And then when the decision was made, we had to have the village staff undertake a survey of our residents, which ended up choosing the original name. I think we need to slow down this major decision regarding our volunteers. And if a reorganization is decided, which I am not opposed to, we should keep many of the volunteers who have served. By not keeping them, we will be losing years of valuable experience by throwing these volunteers out. I think that is a major reason this board has encountered so much turmoil. We now have 2 trustees who have no board experience, 2 trustees with 2 years of board experience, 2 trustees with 4 years, and a village president with 6 years of experience. A total of 18 years of experience for 7 board members is not a lot of time to fully understand the workings of our village. It also leads to having the inexperienced members listening to 1 or 2 other members. I would like to see this issue of reorganizing the commissions brought to the entire village and allow residents to apply instead of having board members choose their own friends or acquaintances. I'd also like to address comments that Trustee Kozar made during the trustee report portion of the June 9th meeting. Instead of giving a worthwhile report on the happenings in Villa Park, Trustee Kozar chose to make disparaging remarks about me and how those candidates who I endorse don't win. However, I wasn't hurt by his so-called report. I actually thought his comments were funny, as whenever a candidate asks me for my endorsement, I usually tell them I do not have a good track record and maybe they're better off not listing me on their campaign literature. So those comments did not upset me, but they did show that my thoughts at the beginning of the meeting did get under your skin, and you resorted to making these childish comments in front of our entire village. Thank you.
Christine Murphy.
Another good one. Can I respond to Nick?
In your trustee report.
Okay.
He won't wait that long.
Okay.
Christine Murphy, 523 South Yale Avenue. I would like to just speak oh, come on, Rolf, give me a break. You did that on purpose. Anyway.
Continue. I'll give you a little more time.
Yeah, give me another 30 seconds, okay? Anyway, I'm not going to talk about any one commission at this point. I think there's been a lot of discussion and contention on an individual basis regarding each of these commissions. I am not in favor of this nor how it happened. However, I have already voiced my opinion that there are process improvements that could have and should be made to the commission, not necessarily the reorganization of the commissioners. There's no reason why all of us shouldn't be able to work together without totally getting rid of the other ones and bringing in all new ones. I will, however, knowingly that this is not the time for questions, I am well aware that Kevin Patrick was working on this back in March, and I would ask, even though I'm not expecting an answer, how much time Kevin Patrick spent identifying new commissioners, interviewing commissioners, and thinking through this whole process. If you look back to the May 12th agenda and all the subsequent meetings, you'll notice that there's not a lot of substance that time is being spent on by our board. These commissions, take a ride down St. Charles Road, look at all the vacant properties, take a look at the turmoil within our staff. We just fired an economic development director. We've had many people let go and we have a lot of vacancies. So my request to the board is stop spending time on these types of things that we can reorganize or deal with and start looking at all of the shortfalls that we should be working toward to make our village a better place. Thank you.
Cheryl Tucker.
Cheryl Tucker. I asked this question at Coffee at the Board, where I wasn't confined to 3 minutes, and President Patrick asked my recommendations. Well, here's what I saw. I'm going to highlight what I can, seeing 3 minutes is not enough time. And you all have a copy, so you should be able to follow along. I'm going to have to talk fast, unfortunately, because I've only got that 3 minutes. The Garden Commission will need to continue to maintain what the Park and Rec Commission started. I'm proud to say, as a chairman of the Park and Rec, there is only one park left, Westland, and unfortunately, we got a recreation center, but we did not get an aquatic center. With that, we completed the 2015 master plan, which I chaired. Fullerton and Douglas is a stormwater and a wildlife thing, no longer a park. Rotary Park and the bike path is a water retainment and a possible dog park, from what I understand. Now, I'm asking the commissioners if they're going to be able to continue completing the feasibility study, which was approved in 2019, seeing I didn't see that on the plan. On Section 2, 2505. I believe that was supposed to be the community recreation instead of the garden. But number one, will there be a designated commissioner in charge of making sure we have programs that are handicap accessory like we have right now? I didn't see anyone designated to do that. And seeing we have funding from NESRA to make sure our village is handicap accessible for all our disabled veterans and residents. Will the Community Recreation Commission actually be able to make recommendations for expanded payment for all the year, through all the year for recreation programs, equipment, et cetera, which would be great because we haven't had to have that before? Or is it just going to be at budget time? Now, the commissions can make recommendations who they will like to have a chairman, but my understanding is the president still is the final word. Who will be responsible on each commission to report the absences on that board to the board? That would be an interesting concept. Who makes that decision? Now, all the recommendations of the commissions should be forwarded to the village board within 45 days of action by whom? It didn't say. Will the commissions get the response back from the board in the same time frame? I'm really curious if that's going to happen. Now, can the commissions form task force, which it states they can, but will the board have to approve all those? Which it looks like that's what's going to happen. Now, will the volunteers be appointed by the board to serve on those task force? It didn't say. And will the commission be able to recruit themselves? I'm just wondering. Now, how do you plan on handling if the vice chair and secretary don't go 3 years? Will the new appointees be eligible right away to be vice chair and secretary if they're voted in? That's
Cheryl,
an
can you,
interesting concept. I'm
you wrap
almost
it up,
done.
please?
I could not make recommendations for the zoning board appeal because I didn't have enough experience or knowledge to do that. But I do have a question. If the planning and commission is staff liaison is the public works, and the zoning commission staff
Cheryl,
liaison
there's
is
other people that
community
need to.
and economic.
Hello? I need to call order. Cheryl,
I have 2 comments to make.
Cheryl.
Please, may I finish?
there are other people here. We have another meeting that
Understand.
starts at 7. I need you to wrap
Okay.
it up now, please.
I will. Will we be getting rid of one of the department names or at least combine them on our website instead of having separate? I just hope you, as you're voting on these proposals, will take into consideration what I have just asked.
All right. Before we go any further, I'm going to ask that everybody remain to their 3 minutes. We do have a meeting that starts at 7 p.m., okay? And there are other people here that do want to talk and that need to be heard. So please keep to your 3 minutes out of respect for everybody here. Next.
We are done with the comments on agenda items, and we have no comments on non-agenda items.
Okay, anybody else, please step to the podium.
Sorry for not signing in. There was a bad accident on the Ike on the way in, so a little delayed.
Go ahead, Jared.
Good evening. My name is Jason Jarrett. On July 2nd, I sent an email to each of you in my role as chair of the Planning and Zoning Commission, expressing in detail my thoughts and concerns on the proposal to restructure commissions, specifically related to the Planning and Zoning Commission. Based on the turnout here this evening, I would assume that you have received similar correspondence in regard to other impacted commissions. I truly hope that these correspondence are received in the spirit in which they have been sent, a sincere request for an opportunity for our elected officials to engage in active conversation with those commissions and their chairs. It is my professional opinion that the proposed separation of the planning and zoning functions of the commission will inject uncertainty, inconsistency, and inefficiency into the review process, increase the workload of staff, and increase the cost and time burden on residents, developers, and property owners. As chairman of the commission since July of 2019, I believe the institutional knowledge and combined expertise that the 9-member commission holds will be instrumental in helping our village move forward during this time of transition and help carry the vision of the recently adopted comprehensive plan into the future. If you have not already, I would challenge you to watch our most recent commission meeting and the public hearing item that was before us. With the matter still pending, I will refrain from providing too much detail or conjecture, but it illustrates how a historic and aspirational understanding of elements of both planning and zoning come together in the form of creative solutions that can benefit both the applicant and the long-term goals of the village. Again, I would just like to reiterate that I welcome the opportunity to speak with each and every one of you, individually or in a group setting, and am open to ideas that could improve the planning process in Villa Park. I have no doubt that our commission would rise to that challenge as well. I am more than happy to answer any questions you might have about our commission tonight or at any point in the future. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
With that, we have no more comments.
Hi, Patrice Gallagher. I live on Monterey. Just a quick comment. I've heard some good comments here tonight, and I've heard some broad brush statements, i.e., nobody is doing anything. It's a little broad brush. I don't think nobody is doing anything because we're all here, for example. So I just want to put out there that I hear that some people are feeling upset and why, but there were a lot of assumptions made about what the board is doing. And it just doesn't sit right with me. So I'm just asking all of us to, once again, let's strive to think positive. Transitions are not easy a lot of the time. And let's just strive to stay in our own lane with our own integrity and what we feel we want to contribute. And let's just give this a positive chance. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Seeing none? Okay, we will be moving along to the discussion. On 4A, discussion on proposed water rate increase due to DuPage Water Commission increase. Manager Rivas.
We're going to ask Public Works Director Mike Guerra to step forward to lead us in this discussion.
Thank you, Your Honor, and Manager Rivas. I just wanted to come before the board to brief. I'll be very brief. I have a quick presentation. Just as you get into numbers, I think it's sometimes easier to see them instead of just listening to them. But as presented, I believe by a previous resident, our water rates from DuPage Water Commission, some of you have been on the board, we're kind of aware these were coming. We do have confirmation as we received our first bill in June for our May, that the DWC, who we purchase our water through to supply to residents, rate has increased. So DWC's fiscal year is May 1st through April 30th. They usually pass the budget in April, which then gets implemented fairly quickly after that. So their 2024 rate was $5.58. The new rate that we are now getting charged is $5.80. So that's a 22-cent per 1,000-gallon rate increase, which is kind of substantial. I mean, percentage-wise, it's 4%, but as you start getting higher in these unit costs, that becomes substantial. I think this is the highest rate increase since I've been here. So I wanted to make sure the board was aware, because to look at some options of how we want to do our rate increases. The last several years, we've kind of passed them through of whatever the rate increases were from the DWC. We then would adjust our rate. 22 cents is pretty large. You're getting near a quarter per 1,000 gallons, which can add up. So where are we at with the village? Our rates was a 5-year study that was completed in 2020, where we set rates through 5 years. So we set them through 2025. Currently, this past January 1st, we instituted 11-cent rate increase. That was already impacting our residents, as that was a January 1st rate increase that was planned, and that was a 1% rate increase. So what does that mean? In our rates, we forecast the DWC rates into it, as we pay for that water being purchased. That's passed on to the residents. In our rate calculations, dating back to 2020, when we forecasted rates out, and I've been trying to update them as we go, we were forecasting a rate of $5.61 for DWC. So we're about 19 cents lower than what we're actually getting charged. And so I'm just looking kind of for some temperature or some direction by the board of how they wish to proceed. So currently in our 2025 budget, we forecasted a budget of $3.35 million. $3,350,000, which equates to about, we are forecasting a little less than about 600 million gallons. being pumped to the village. With that, we do account for like an 8 to 10% loss in that rate, knowing that we purchase water for ourselves for our village buildings. We do have water lane breaks, we do have fires, we do have things that use water. Not all water that we're purchasing is getting passed through the residents in terms of a one-to-one. It's just getting incorporated into the rates. Looking at the last 3 years, we've kind of studied off, and we pump about, when I say pumpage, that's how much we purchase from DWC, about 550 million gallons. In the last 3 years, we've been averaging billing out to our residents about 500 million gallons. So we bill for about 90% of what we actually purchase for DWC through residents, because that is what they consume. That's just a quick chart just to kind of show how we've been kind of tracking how much we've purchased versus how much we billed, to try to show that we're trying to close that gap. Our goal is always to reduce breaks to keep that down. So what do we have? The options we have before the board, and that's where I'm trying to bring this to you, is we can do nothing. We can just keep our rate that was set by January 1st. What that will do is I think we have enough room in our budget to cover it, but we do have about $2 million of infrastructure projects that were planned that would probably have to utilize our capital fund a little bit to help cover those costs. A lot of our rate increases we're also planning for infrastructure improvements throughout the 5 years that we're implementing. These are the water mains that you see on Harvard, the water tower paintings, and now we do have implementation of the lead services, which is brought up, that we now have a lot of costs that will be coming forward to the board in future budgets to help finalize those plans and then keep track of those plans for the lead service replacements, along with the implementation of the resident participation that we've passed earlier this year. We could do what we've done previously, where we just pass through the additional cost straight on, change our rates, would add the rate increase of 19 cents per thousand. It would probably come in your September billing if we pass this ordinance in the next 2 meetings, which would then be a straight pass-through, so the whole cost of DWC's water rate is passed on to the residents. That keeps our operating side and our rates the same, and we can move on. Or we could do something in between. We could have it and do like a 10-cent rate per residence. I all base this on about 6,000 gallons. That's roughly an average user. Obviously, if you have a larger family, you're using a lot more water. If you're a 2-person family, you might be using a little bit less. That is just about the industry standard. So what that equates to is those rates only are what you see up there. So the $1.14 a month is just for that additional. If you forecast 1054 over 6,000, you're $60 for a water bill on a monthly average. So that's why I'm trying to bring this to the board. It's kind of a significant increase. Before I bring an ordinance, I was trying to see what the board would be, because this is a policy level decision. So I just wanted to present that to you guys this evening. And I can take questions, or we can discuss further, whatever is the desire of you, Mr. President.
Trustee Alfano.
Thank you. I know that in public comment, Ms. Greco had mentioned a water fee structure. I don't know if that is something that is implemented elsewhere. I know that's not something that you are planning on presenting by any means tonight. I don't know if you have any information on a structure like that?
I would have to review that a little bit further.
Sure.
There's some complications with that off the top of my head, but I would want to do a little additional research to talk education.
Yeah, I can appreciate that, but I would be interested in some information on a structure like that. Obviously not to discuss that further right now, but soon.
I would say we're probably getting in the range of needing to do another rate study, planning future, and that could be incorporated into that, but I will do some research in the interim, as I'm not overly familiar with that sort of structure.
Can you tell me more about a rate study? Can you explain what you mean by that?
So what we've done in 2020, and historically was done, I want to say about 3 years prior, every 3 years prior, is we take a rate study looking at forecasting what we have projects coming forward. We do forecasting in terms of operational need based on, CPIs, those sort of things, to see how much money is needed. And that's what we kind of ran into. And this study was when we did it in 2020, Chicago and DWC kind of said, we're not looking at raising rates anytime in the future. And then 2 years later started hitting 4, 5, 6% increases, which we didn't believe them at zero. We did put like 1 to 2% rate increases, but obviously not this rate. So what we do is try to look at forecasting the next couple of years how much we need in expenses, forecasting on, then kind of backtracking to what that equates to and how much revenue that is needed to sustain those services. And so it's a lot of spreadsheets and a lot
Sure.
of math, but it's trying to do an analysis so that we can accurately forecast how much money is needed and not be reactive, but be kind of on task. And to make sure we have enough reserves and stuff in case something does happen.
Sure. I would be interested in having that kind of on the burner.
It's probably planned for this fall.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you.
Trustee Constados?
Yes, thank you. I would just like to know, what is staff suggesting with looking at the projects that are coming up and that we're going to be doing, and then the increases? What is staff suggesting in your looking at all the information? What would you think would be the best for us?
I would think forecasting with the changes this year, we do need to at least account for at least half of that rate increase, if not all. However, I know it's a burden, that's why we're here. But I don't think we can not raise it, just because, like I said, we were kind of deficit budgeting a little bit this year, doing capital improvements. We have several roads that need water main before we fix the road, and those are becoming priorities for the residents. And then the lead services. Knowledge, I think it was brought forward, is we kept records of all of our mains. We didn't keep great records on all the services. So we do need to do a lot of exploratory digging coming up in the several years to get verification for future planning of lead service lines. We would need some of that money to forecast. But I also know 22-cent rate and a short notice is kind of a significant rate. So I would advocate for some sort of rate increase, whether that's 10 cents to 19 cents at the discretion of the board.
Thank you.
So what you would say is basically there's options 2 and 3.
Correct. I mean, there's always option 1. That's always an option, but staff would be looking at 2 or 3 to move forward with.
Manager Rivas?
Very quickly, I was just going to ask you, going back in time off the top of your head, can you think of a year where there was not a rate increase? And where I'm going with this is that if we do a tier system, we're always going to be chasing that optimal dollar value.
Since my time frame here is no, we've always raised rates. And I want to say I think the 3 years prior to that, knowing that the study rates were always increased, cost operations have always gone up. We kind of did a 5-year to try to strengthen that, but unfortunately, the rebound after COVID, we've seen significant increases in a lot of cost, which could not be accounted for, material cost. So that's a long answer to the short answer of no. As far as I know, we've always raised rates.
Understood. Thank you.
Trustee Kumar?
I think the tiered structure is coming from what they do in electricity. A lot of times electricity is on a tiered structure. More you use, more you pay. And so I think that does cause, I have to agree that it does lead to conservation savings and stuff. So we should, as Trustee Alfano suggested, we should quickly kind of look at it. I understand it may not be fully implementable, and so if we're doing a rate study, I would definitely want that done. Along with that, at this point, maybe the 50% is where I would go. I think people are really feeling sharp hits to their pocket in our village at this point. It is very, very difficult to make it happen, and we did just have an increase, so that's where I would support you on the 50. I'm not sure if I'd support 100% pass through.
Trustee Cordova?
I know with the grocery tax, we looked at other municipalities and what they were doing. I'm wondering if we can get a good idea as to what other municipalities are doing with this increase. I know we just had one earlier this year, so I don't think everyone else has done that, but just to kind of get a consensus of this is, it's DuPage, so there's quite a few different folks that we can look at to see if they're going to eat that cost, if they're going to pass it through. I like all 3 of these options, to tell you the truth, but just kind of see what everyone else is doing, because we do have, capital fund, we're kind of dipping in that a little bit. I think we went from 200 to 150 days, and we may be going a little bit further down. So I know we can't just take that all on, but I'd like to see what other municipalities are doing, just to kind of give us an idea of what everyone else is doing. Plus, we know what they're doing with grocery tax, so just kind of looking at that. So if that's okay, I don't know how.
I can get that information.
Yeah, okay, I appreciate that.
Trustee Constados?
I'd like to agree with Trustee Cordova in getting that information, and I think I'd be interested in something to where we at least try to give a little relief to the residents. I know we can't take it on fully, But with all the increases we have been going through, I think it would help a little bit to alleviate some of that for them. So I would be interested in probably 2 or 3, I would say, as long as that's what staff is recommending. But yes, I would be interested in all that information as well. I think that's a good idea.
What's the effective date would be? What's the effective date would be for the increase?
The effective date would be after we pass the ordinance. Ordinances don't go into effect for 10 days. Sorry, I don't want to speak for legal counsel. However, normally we will set it for the following month. So it's not we pass it July 24th and then your August bill, it would be the bill following, typically is how we've implemented that. So there is a 30-day window afterwards so that the notices can be put on the next bill to inform residents of the rate increase.
Is there any other discussion? Okay. Seeing none, we're
Thank
gonna
you.
move along. Thank you. To 4B, an ordinance of the Village of Villa Park, DuPage County, Illinois, amending Article, 28 of Chapter 2 of the Villa Park Municipal Code, dissolving Economic Development Commission and creating the Villa Park Growth Commission. Trustee Kumar.
I am actually okay with that first ordinance. I've talked to many of the commissioners. It's pretty much a one-for-one. I think there are a few commissioners that are very active that I would like to see at least apply for new commissions. When are we going to discuss the policies? Because that was, it says, it was on the original agenda, and then I don't see policies being discussed.
So the policy that created that, will that be on? Well, do you have any specific questions about that policy that was on?
Well, I sent out a 3-page sheet instead of a 20-page sheet this time so that it's easier to read. And these are policies I'm going to suggest for commissions. I also sent out, I just gave it to you guys, another set of the new commissions, what I think would be good, I don't think we have enough time to actually vet all the questions and vet all the information that has come to us from the commissioners that were old commissioners. We also haven't actually spoken to many of the newer commissioners that have been possibly chosen. So I really feel that we haven't given this enough time. So, especially because we talked about water rates for half the committee of the whole. So I would like to explain, just because we have about 6-7 minutes, what my policies and procedures were.
Let's save that. We're talking on item B here, an ordinance of the Village of Park, Chapter 28. Let's stick to that.
Yeah, that's, anyway, we're a committee, this is a committee of the whole, it's discussion only, am I correct?
It's discussion on what's on the agenda.
Okay, the discussion as to changing the commission at this point until the policies and procedure are discussed, I will not be in favor of changing any commission.
Okay. Trustee Constados.
I got a question. Is this what you're saying you
Yeah.
gave us? This came from you? Okay.
Yes.
Because I thought it came from Cheryl for a second then. Okay.
No.
So just to be clear, you're trying to ask what the policy and procedures would be for picking people? Is that what you're saying?
No, both picking people, not picking people for the commissions, we have to talk about that. And also the commission restructuring, we never got to really discuss that, right? So we need to discuss both those things before we talk about every single commission. I mean, I'm okay with this first one, as I said, but there's policies that have to go into place that have to be universal across commissions.
Agreed.
Yeah.
There's a time and place for that, but right now, it's this amendment right here.
Okay, then I am not in favor of that.
Okay. Any other discussion? Trustee Alfano.
Yes, I have 2 things. First of all, in general, not just with this particular ordinance, but in general for all of the commission ordinances that we have up for discussion. I know that Mr. Wagner had brought up in conversation and in his comment tonight about staff liaisons and how board liaisons really are necessary. And I think that as I'm looking at the restructuring, I know part of the frustration that I have heard as I have tried over my term here so far, getting to different commissions, not just the commission that I'm a liaison for, but also just trying to get to the commissions. There are a lot of commissions. So trying to kind of streamline them so that the people who are here on the board, because there are only a few of us here, we do have enough board liaisons to be able to attend all of these commissions. I think that is important. Being able to have a staff member there, we are limited in the number of staff that can be there, and being able to have a board member there, I think that's crucial to be able to have that conversation and that back and forth. But I think that if we want to keep expanding those, I think it makes it really hard for people who, we volunteer our time there too. We would want to be there. It's not that we don't want to. I get all of the invitations. I want to be there. We can't be there for everything, even though we would really like to. And I think that that's probably the feeling that we have for most of the people here sitting next to me. So I think that when we're looking at this as a whole, I can see why we would need to restructure this. So thank you for bringing that to our attention, because I do think it's important. And I do see those commissions that have active board liaisons, they do have that back and forth and rapport with us. As far as the policies and being able to make these decisions for ordinances, I think that we're looking at two separate things. I think we need to take a look at the commissions and then we look at policy. I don't think that the two need to interact. We already have a board policy book. If we want to look at that now and look at that as we're discussing this, then let's do that. But I think that that's taking too big of a bite on the apple. That's how I feel.
Trustee Constados.
I would just like to say that this is kind of like a process. So the way I'm kind of looking at this is it's almost like building a house. We're first doing the foundation, and then there's going to be building off of that, Now you got to do the structure and put the walls up and, everybody knows how a house is built. When you're saying procedure, I mean, we have in the packet here, I'm seeing a bunch of information that explains, that's why I guess I'm a little confused to Trustee Kumar's procedure questions. I mean, it kind of outlines here the powers and duties and whatnot, and so again, I'm a little confused. Are you saying that you want the procedures for picking the people to these
So
committees? Because
one thing
I
I'm going to
guess
do really quick, and I sorry to interrupt, is that you're talking about policies and procedures. That's going to have to be for another time. Right now, we are talking about Chapter 28 of Chapter 2 of this. So I'm going to ask that we remain focused on that because we still have 3 other topics and a meeting starting shortly. So is there any other comments related to the ordinance itself? Okay.
I do. Sorry.
Trustee Alfano.
So I'm looking at the ordinance under section 2-2803 membership. I just would like some clarity on B, and I think that this also pulls through to the other ordinances, and that's members shall be appointed for a term of 3 years, except the members that are first appointed. Is that, those members, there's 1 for 1 year, 2 for 2 years, and 2 for 3 years. That's just the first group of people that are appointed? Is that my understanding? That's correct?
Yes.
And then also in the same section, and C, all appointments shall expire the 30th of April of the appropriate year. I'm wondering if this might be a legal question. Is there a reason why it's the 30th of April and why it couldn't be the 30th of May?
Legally, no. It can be whatever date you would want to set, although if you were to do May, I assume 31st. But the idea is of having that in there is that if someone gets appointed to a term midway through the term, they're being appointed to the remainder of whatever that term is. It's not that they're being appointed to a new 3-year term, or that it would be 3 years from, if they were appointed in October, it doesn't suddenly become their term is up September 30th. It's to create consistency.
So to your point about maintaining consistency, I would suggest, and this is my suggestion, that we change that 30th of April to maybe the end of May, simply because we do have a new board that comes in the middle of May. And should we have transition at that time. Perhaps the transition needs to wait until after you have a transition of the board. Or maybe you want to make it until September or even later, but perhaps maybe we would like to push that a little bit further past April.
Okay.
That's my thought.
Okay.
And is that in all of the ordinances? I think that's what I read in all of the ordinances, is May 30th, right?
Trustee Kumar.
But that is a policy question. That's what we're doing. We're
in
setting
the
policy
ordinance.
just through this ordinance. For one commission, I just want consistency for all the commissions. It doesn't make sense to set policy for each commission differently. It shouldn't be that the one commission gets one policy, another gets another policy. Whatever we streamline our commissions to be, we need to, and that's how the ordinance is written, with all the policies embedded in the ordinance. We need to streamline it consistent across the commissions. So for the Economic Development Commission, I would say the following be added to then the policy, that there are 7 unpaid members, 7 at least, that they are eligible, live, work, and operate in the business, which we already said, that members serve a 3-year term, that old commissioners who were on the commission previously have the following aspect, to have the ability to join either this commission or another commission, so that we have continuity, and that subcommittees, that there are subcommittees that are allowed in commissions that we know right now, and that we change the policy for subcommittees to have the following aspect, that those subcommittees do not need to involve just people in a particular commission, but can include people outside that commission. And that's where we go. There's no point in changing an ordinance that we don't want to go towards unless we actually look at all the commissions. It's about restructuring the whole commission set, not just one at a time. If you're going to go one at a time, that's fine, but the policies have to be the same for all the commissions. There's no favoritism with commissions. There's no better commission than another commission. There's no better volunteer than another volunteer. That's all I can say.
Is that it?
Yes.
Okay, is there any further discussion?
Nope.
Okay, seeing none, we'll move along to 4C, an ordinance of Village of Ville Park, DuPage County, Illinois, amending Articles 13 and 25 of Chapter 2 of the Ville Park Municipal Code, dissolving the Parks and Recreation Advisory Commission and the Environmental Concerns Commission, and creating the Guarded Village Commission and the Community Recreation Commission. Trustee Kumar.
Yeah, this one, environmental concerns, if you look at it, does 3,000 things compared to everyone, okay? They do so many things. Now, throwing in parks into environmental concerns just gives them 3,020 things to do, and you moved from 7 commissioners to 5 in your projection from the last meeting, which going from 7 to 5 and giving them more to do does not seem efficient or streamlining necessarily. It only makes it more inefficient and less of streamlining. There are things that are missing from the commissions, so I would keep environmental concerns as is. I would, I understand what you're saying, Trustee Alfano, in that there's not enough members or staff to go around to all the commissions. I understood that. I cut a lot out. There are certain commissions that don't meet consistently, okay? I would address those commissions first. So what does not meet consistently? What does not have quorum? The Historical Preservation Commission often does not have quorum. What else does not have quorum? The Environment, the EDC, the Economic Development Commission. The only reason I'm not actually addressing that in the first ordinance at this point with the environmental, with the Economic Development Commission is because the Economic Development Commission at this point, changing it without a set of rules and regulations, I think is unfair to the volunteers. It is also unfair to the new upcoming volunteers as well as the old ones. And obviously, even the people I've talked to on all the commissions, as well as some of the new commissioners, that were allocated seem to feel, the older commissioners feel disenfranchised, not happy. I know some commissioners were on the Economic Development Commission with me. They were great. They actually visited many, many businesses, and as one of them came out to speak, and I have utmost respect for those individuals. I think some of the things are duplicated, and we need to get to that, obviously, but we can't actually discuss commission by commission unless we know what all the commissions are.
All done?
Yes.
Any other discussion? Trustee Alfano?
Thank you. I do believe that if we do combine these two, I would take the recommendation that we need junior commissioners. I think that would be important. I do think there is a valid point and a valid concern that 5 members might not be enough. I also do think that environmental concerns, if the word environment needs to be prevalent, whether it's a subcommittee, whether it's a change in a title of the committee or commission, I think that's important as well. I know that that is something that is, it breathes life into our village. It's something that people get involved in. People are activated by that, young and old alike. I think that's really relevant. And I think that if we ignore that, then we're ignoring a huge population of our residents and our neighbors that really see a lot of relevance and a big place to be able to volunteer and to put effort into our community. That's all I have.
Trustee Kumar?
To piggyback off that point, I do feel that we are losing a considerable amount of our power as a village when we do not retain a set of active volunteers. So the point is not in any way, and I understand we had a discussion, a little bit of a discussion on the importance of volunteers circulating. One thing I would say is that each commissioners are only on one commission. That's something I want to put forth as to open up space for new commissioners. I understand that there are commissioners on multiple commissions right now. I would like that going forward if we are going to restructure. And I agree with Trustee Alfano that I do want a junior commissioner on every commission if possible. I do not think, though, that staff has to be at every subcommittee, and that's why the subcommittee structure helps us. They do not have to be at, so if we use the subcommittee structure, we can infuse more volunteers into the same system without necessarily having staff and a liaison at each possible place. I did start off with some, grandiose plans. I did see someone come up about video production, right? And one of the commissions I was suggesting is a technology
Trustee Kumar,
communication.
let's stay on this, please.
I think, okay, then I'm going to say we table the agenda right now to another meeting because the discussion is staying on just one aspect of things in order to not allow the board to actually have good conversation. So I have a problem with that. So I would like to table this discussion or have a discussion on the whole commissions in a proper fashion. I really value the input of everybody who came out at this point, or at least have, if we're discussing just one commission, what are we actually addressing? We're not addressing the problem at hand.
So what are you asking?
I'm asking that we either have this discussion fully right now. I'm fine to wait.
That's what we're doing.
Okay, so we're fully having the discussion.
About this ordinance. That's what's on the agenda. That's what we are talking about.
Okay, so the ordinance is just a few ordinances that you put forth in the last meeting, Kevin. Those ordinances are not what we want necessarily as a board, I don't know if we
Well,
want them.
then let me interrupt here.
Yeah.
Is if you're saying this is not what the board wants,
Right.
so you're asking to table this. So are you entertaining a motion, or are you going to make a motion to table this?
Yes, I am making a motion to table this.
Okay, so there's a motion on the table to what?
Table B, C, and D until we clarify everything, and that we give the time necessary to actually clarify everything.
Okay, so there's a motion on the table to postpone B, C, and D to when? So what do you mean? Which ones? C, D, and E?
Till the and then the next cow, but that's,
To
and
the
then we
next
have
cow.
to keep our commission still
Okay,
running.
do I have a second?
I'll
I have a second for that, okay. Roll call vote.
I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry.
May I just say something? Just to clarify for everyone, there's nothing that prevents you from having this discussion at an actual board meeting as well. That's the point of discussion before a vote. So you don't have to table it to another cow. It can be tabled to the next meeting, and then you have the discussion. You don't even have to table it. It will just be on the next agenda. Just pointing that
So,
out.
okay, then we put it on the next agenda, not these things, but the actual, we have a discussion of what goes in the agenda.
So what is your motion, please?
My motion is to table these 3 items and put discussion of commission policies and discussion of actual restructuring on the next agenda.
Okay, and we have a second by trustee Cordova.
Yeah, yeah.
You're keeping the second for that?
Yeah, for the next meeting, right.
Okay. Roll call vote.
Alfano.
No.
Trustee Cordova.
Yes.
Trustee Constatos.
No.
Trustee Kozar.
No.
Trustee Kumar.
Yes.
Trustee Sabri.
No.
Okay, that motion does not pass, so we will continue with the discussion on item 4C. Is there any more discussion? Trustee
I guess my
Cordova.
only worry, not worry, it's 7:15, you know, we have a couple families, we have some swearing-ins that we have to do, and I feel like we're rushing through this. I don't know what the answer there is, looking for everyone else's input, but.
So we're going to get through this,
Oh, okay.
and that will have to wait, but yes, to your point. Trustee Constatos.
To my knowledge, we were going to put this on the agenda. Wasn't this going to be on the next agenda anyways?
That would be the idea coming out of Cal, that it would be up for second reading next agenda.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure because that's what I was under the assumption of, so, okay, thank you.
Trustee Alfano.
So I guess my confusion then is, this is the time for us to talk about all of these things. And so I'm unclear as to why we need to table it if this is what we're here to talk about, and we're coming prepared to talk about these ordinances. So,
So that's what we're doing right now.
Right,
Is we're
that's-
talking about just the ordinance.
Okay.
So is there any other discussion on the ordinance itself? Trustee Kumar.
Which ordinance are we talking about, B or C?
We are on 4C.
Okay, 4C, and for 4C, we're looking at, can you read that, President?
It's in front of you. I already have. Do you have any more bullet points for 4C? Trustee Kumar.
Yes, I have many bullet points for all of these things.
But for 4C in particular, you've already been recognized twice, and you've been recognized a third time. So I'm asking if you could summarize your remaining bullet points for 4C before we continue.
Yes, just, you can continue and I'll.
Okay, is there any other discussion on 4C? No. Okay, seeing none, we are moving on to 4D, an ordinance of the Village of Villa Park, DuPage County, Illinois, amending Articles 16 and 17 of Chapter 2 of the Villa Park Municipal Code, dissolving the Planning and Zoning Commission and creating the Plan Commission and the Zoning Board of Appeals, and amending Chapter 18 regarding the planning and development. Is there any discussion? Trustee Kumar.
Yes, we had a discussion during our very short discussion of 20 minutes. about why it would not be good to change planning and zoning in the way, because it's an archaic concept that doesn't exist too frequently. And I made a mistake during that discussion because I said St. Charles was the one that actually had such a commission structure. It is not St. Charles, it's West Chicago and a couple other places. And when I went to West Chicago has a very similar structure to what we have in Villa Park, and they are trying very, very hard for economic development, just like we are trying very, very hard for economic development. And economic development hasn't done great, and planning and zoning, the efficiency of planning and zoning is very, very important to economic development in town. And if we split planning and zoning, then you have to go through planning to get, things done, and then you have to go through zoning in general, and that's a longer process. It's less inefficient, and why would we want a more inefficient system when we have an efficient system? Now, I understand that you want to look and align things to fit with the plan commission, right? That to fit with the comprehensive plan. So if you're trying to fit with the comprehensive plan, why not have a planning and zoning board and a subcommittee that just deals with comprehensive plans? It's absolutely no different from the structure is saying, and the efficiency that Trustee Alfano was saying, that the same individual, we only have a few people on our board, doesn't have to be at 2 meetings or 3 meetings. That subcommittee structure allows for that. So why not have a comp-plan subcommittee and a planning and zoning board there, and the garden, and that's the issue.
Attorney.
Just to clarify one thing, Trustee Kumar, there are a number of roles that are listed in the ordinance for the proposed plan commission, and you had mentioned concerns over efficiency and that they would have to go before the plan and then the zoning. That's not how this is structured. Nothing has to go to planning and then zoning. There are things that go to planning, separate things that go to zoning, so it doesn't create a two-tiered system.
Yeah, but the point was not to increase the number of commissions. That's what I'm hearing on the board, but why is plan and zoning split when we don't want to increase the number of commissions, when they're doing an efficient job? Actually, planning and zoning has had quorum so many times. I have so much information on planning and zoning. They've had quorum, they've been efficient. There's only 2 members that are not very active on planning and zoning, as far as I can see. They have a structure full of individuals that are well qualified for planning and zoning, including an urban planner, a lawyer, an architect, many, many good people on that. That doesn't mean that the people we put forth or newer people are not qualified. It just means that these are very qualified individuals. And I am not sure that changing the structure necessarily is more efficient. What I've heard from talking to many, many villages is that is an archaic structure, splitting planning. And so I've talked to about 5 villages over the past couple weeks. And what I've heard from village managers is that that is an older structure. There are problems in those areas when you split planning and plan and have a zoning board of appeals. There are problems to be had. So why are we going to a structure where there are problems to be had? And why are we even looking at this ordinance at this point?
Y'all done?
Yes.
Okay. Trustee Constados.
I'd like to ask Trustee Kumar which villages you spoke to.
I spoke to Hinsdale, Glen Ellen, Glendale Heights, Aurora, and Lamont.
And all of them have?
They have different things. Burr Ridge has this structure of planning and zoning board of appeals. West Chicago has planning and zoning board of appeals. A lot of the older structures that stayed from past have this kind of structure. The newer structure is to put planning and zoning together, and that is a newer methodology. If we're going for a newer methodology, we should You know, if we're going for technology, advancement, newer methodology with structuring, we should go for advancement, newer methodology with structuring.
Are y'all done?
Yes.
Okay, is there any other discussion?
Oh, one more thing.
I thought you were done.
I'm not.
So,
This is a very passionate, I am a super volunteer. I really understand volunteers, so this is a very, very passionate aspect to me that we are disenfranchising so many of our volunteers with this process. And there's no clarity as to how we're going to stop that by just looking at these ordinances. There is no clarity to that. And that is something that is concerning to me. And I hope that this board will think about that carefully and will think carefully about what that means to let people give up their volunteer service and put other people into certain volunteers with this restructuring. Restructuring needs to be discussed with the volunteers.
are you done
And
now?
No, I have a question for some of the board members. I have a question for, actually trustee Khalid.
Yes.
Yes, trustee Khalid has a really good volunteer experience, as I know. And have you let go of all your volunteers ever to set up a committee and start a new process?
It's all it's all depending on what the structure is. This is not the same organization that we're discussing. The way system works is that your volunteers are always changing. The new volunteer comes in and the older one leaves. And we have 1 year term, not 4-year terms like we have here, or 3 years terms.
Okay, and which organization was this for?
This is for the Medina Shriners. That's
The
one of the largest organizations that you can see that they
Okay.
do a lot of volunteer
Okay,
work.
so the Medina Shriners change their volunteers every year?
This is all irrelevant here, what we're discussing.
Yes, it is.
No,
It's
it's not.
relevant to the volunteership.
All right, let's keep continuing the discussion constructively, please. So trustee Kumar, if you could wrap it up, please.
Oh, okay, and so volunteer services, as I said.
You're violating my rights.
What the heck just happened?
All right, let's continue. Trustee Kumar?
So the appointment, I've worked for 6 to 7 volunteer organizations, and they all have different structures, right? And some of them change over on a yearly basis. Some of them have continuity. Continuity is a good thing. It's not a bad thing to change. Nobody changes all their volunteers at once. That is just a recipe for disaster. You need that continuity. You need that knowledge base. I am surprised that the Shriners changed their whole volunteer base in 1 year. That's very surprising to me. Nobody does that. And a lot of times, there's one volunteer group that will.
Can we stay on track outside of volunteer groups? We're talking about this ordinance in particular, trustee Kumar. Please stay on topic.
This is about that ordinance, because the volunteers for this ordinance have special skills that I think are important.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Is there any other discussion? Trustee Cordova?
I think for all of them, the big piece for me is always the dissolving the commission and relieving the commissioners of their duties. And I know you and I spoke about that in our meeting on last week at some point of, is there an opportunity for some of these current commissioners to become part of these current boards and these current commissions? And the answer is yes?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so that was definitely something that I think is not quite out there yet.
Yeah.
Only because that is what we're getting, right? That's the kind of feedback we're getting now. This is feedback we got a Monday ago or whatever it was. We have thrown these people out without any kind of conversation. And now we're going to be having those conversations. We're going to be re-looking at what those commissions look like. And this may not be a full dissolving of those commissions. We may have some commissioners that will stay on for some of these newer commissions. Is that correct?
The commissions, according to ordinance, will be dissolved. The new commissions will be created. At that point, then, when the commissions are meeting, they will be empowered to tell us, the board, what they need, whether that be junior commissioners, whether it be additional members, or what have you.
So the current So a person that's on P and Z, let's say, right?
Like the one right up in front here.
Yes.
Right? So yes, so there's going to be opportunity. Right now, our commissions, it's not about performance-based, it's not about individuals, it's about structure. I mean, for example, we talk about, Mr. Amori, at the last meeting, you talked about transit and transit-oriented, correct? What I'm going to say is that that is a very important topic, and you had made mention that you had not seen it anywhere within these proposals. However, if you look through our entire code of ordinances for the entire village of Villa Park, there is no mention of transit or transit-oriented. The only mention of it was the creation of the Bike Pedestrian Transit Subcommittee, which didn't fall under traffic and safety. It fell under environmental concerns. And that is, to my experience, is kind of misplaced, all right? Simply back then, when that subcommittee was created, all the board had to do was create a text amendment to allow the Traffic and Safety Commission to create that. What we are doing here is we are restructuring. We are allowing these commissions to be able to tell us what they need. We are giving the power back to the commissions. That's what we're doing here. So to answer your question, there's going to be plenty of opportunity for commissioners that might not have a home anymore. There's going to be plenty of opportunity for these commissions to tell us that they want junior commissioners and subcommissions. Yes.
So I just want to just clarify. So Jason Jarrett doesn't have opportunity. He has to wait for at least 1 year to get back onto this new planning and development committee, correct?
No. We are going to let that committee tell us what they need. And if they feel that they need more members, that's an amendment to the ordinance that we up here as a board will make. That is part of making formal recommendations to the board, which hasn't happened. We haven't gotten many formal recommendations to this board, appropriate ones. So that's what I'm getting at.
So, and this is kind of goes back to some of our conversations.
So, and I know, and I apologize that I went off topic here, but we do need to stay on this ordinance regarding planning and zoning.
Yeah, so for planning and zoning, we get a lot of recommendations, formal recommendations from them, almost maybe every other, I don't want to say, every other meeting we get them. That one works really, really well.
Sure.
They have a quorum, and I know Parks and Rec, we talked about that, but this one specifically, and a few of these work really, really well. They have a quorum, we get recommendations, there's viable output from some of these. And one of the things we were talking about was kind of ensuring that moving forward, having a policy or having a template of this is kind of what we're looking for from our commissions. This is what we would like to get from you, formal recommendations, whatever it would be. So yes, that piece is wonderful. The issue for me was always we're getting rid of everyone because it's a restructure, but they weren't actually involved in any of that conversation. Even if we have some of the best people around, how can we get those people to stay on? We don't. And we know what their backgrounds are. We know what they are capable of, what their professional backgrounds are, and what they're willing to do here. We don't know what these new people are. We don't know what they're bringing. We can have even better people that may be coming in, but we don't have anything. We don't have a mechanism in place to say who should stay and who should move on and get another opportunity later down the line. So that's just the whole thing. So, and we've heard from commissions, we've heard from residents, and we're not quite listening right now because we're kind of moving forward with a lot of this. And this is the discussion, I understand that, but I mean, if you just listen to the discussion, it's not quite a discussion, it is more of we're listening and moving on, right?
Well, we're trying to have a discussion here.
So-
That's what we're doing here. Is having a
So I
discussion.
guess my part of the discussion is, I don't know if we did a good job of looking at auditing, kind of restructuring, understanding what some of these commissions are doing. Let's take the best parts of them, let's bring them over, let's take the best of those people, bring them over. Can we reconfigure or rethink the way that these commissions are built out right now so that we can have a discussion? And I know this whole thing was to start the discussion,
Yeah.
and we're having it. So that's my part.
Okay.
This is my input in the discussion.
Appreciate it. Anybody else?
Yes.
Trustee Alfano.
So I know that in most of these ordinances, including the one we're talking about now, there is a section where each commission can have or form a task force. I'm wondering, and this may be for legal, if we're talking about what commissions can do, empowering them in creating things that they need, bringing it to the board. Is that something that we can put in the ordinance itself? Because we're talking about ordinances, there's discussion of policy, and I would really like to see in the ordinance what it is that we are empowering them to do. If that makes any sense.
Yes, I mean, anything can be changed, certainly, to the ordinances. If there's language that you think should be added, or you would like us to come up with some, we can put that in the ordinance for your consideration before the next meeting.
Sure, so what I'm hearing as we're all talking is one of the things that we would like is for the commissions to be able to say, we have this project, this whatever it is that we're working on, we need to bring in more experts. We need to bring in people. We know people who can do this and can do this well. We would like to ask the board to allow us to bring these people on to help with these tasks. I'm wondering how we would structure that in a way where we could give them the power to do that in the ordinance.
Trustee Constados?
Wouldn't that be through like a subcommittee? Wouldn't, I mean, them coming to us and saying, you know, like, we have a lot on our plate, or we have a particular item on our plate that is going to require some more manpower, some more expertise, or whatever. You know, we'd like to set up a subcommittee, you know, like, so let's say, for an example, you know, like the Fun Commission, maybe they want a subcommittee for Summerfest. You know what I mean? And they come to us and say, hey, here's this item, we want to do Summerfest, but we need a subcommittee. Is there anything worded in there that they can do that? Like, that would be through the subcommittee, correct?
Right, currently it's talked about a task force, and you could interpret the task force to be what you're saying, but
Okay.
the language can be modified to, based on this discussion, to more encapsulate what you're each saying.
Okay, so when you're saying task force, it's basically, that's just the verbiage we're using for kind of like a subcommittee or more
For the
people
ability
add.
to, I'm sorry to speak over you, for the ability to create more tasks that would need to be specifically addressed by the committee.
Okay.
The commission.
So to add more people.
Yes,
Okay, so it's already in there.
without specifically laying it out.
Okay,
And they have the ability to make recommendations generally to the board about any topic that they feel is germane to their commission.
and just so we're all on the same page, commissions are just to make recommendations. They're not, you know,
Correct. None of the commissions that we're
Right.
talking about make any final decisions.
okay, thank you.
Trustee Alfano?
Thank you. I'm speaking more of more permanent changes. Let's say 5 isn't enough. We need 7. We need 8 or 9 people.
It's an easy text amendment. But what we want to do is we want to have our commissions tell us that they want those extra 2 people to be on there, that they need that extra help.
So we already have had a commission do that.
Yes.
For us. The Fund Commission had done that maybe
Yes.
2 years ago, looked at their ordinance and said, this isn't what we need this instead, came to us, and we've changed the ordinance.
That's correct.
Okay. So we want to empower them to be able to do that and let them know they can do that.
Correct.
Got it.
Correct. Trustee Cordova?
With some of these ordinances, I'm wondering if we can also kind of ask what those outputs are. Here's your commission. We are looking for 4 formal recommendations a year, 3, 2, whatever it would be, and kind of build a little bit more structure into here, as opposed to, again, giving it back to the commission, because I think maybe some of these commissions haven't been fully empowered to do that because maybe they didn't know they were able to do that, number 1.
Sure.
But then number 2, if we can kind of guide and give a template of, here is, you have 2026 planning, give us what you want to do, here's a template type of thing. We talked about this, but, and we have specific outputs for each of these commissions so that we can go back and say,
Yeah.
this is a very viable one. They're
Yeah.
doing all their milestones. They're giving us everything that we need from a commission that is, what we're looking to,
Yeah.
revitalize, whatever it would be.
And I'm glad you brought that up, because during our conversation, we did talk about this importance and also the importance of engagement, right? So in that conversation that I had with Trustee Cordova, we would, once some of these ordinances are established for these new commissions, is that we would have a conversation with the chairs of these commissions to let them understand what a formal recommendation actually looks like, what the board is looking for, how that works. It's not just like a wish list. Well, I want this, I want that. It's like, well, we took these dates to look into this. We discussed it on these dates. Here's our proposal. This is how much it would cost. Here's how we're going to plan this. But talking to about engagement as well is one of the things, a couple of the things that I want to do moving forward that I would like, and something that we've already talked about that we might propose to the board together at the end of August, maybe, is that one of the ideas that I would like to do is I would like to implement 2 town hall meetings a year, maybe in June, July, and maybe November, December. And what those allow us to do is to allow us to engage with the public. But I would like all of the commissions to be present there as well, with their own opportunity to engage with the public, to let people know who they are, what they want to do, and what they have done, sort of thing. So again, end of August, we will be talking further about how we're going to present that as well. Also, a few years ago, the village went to a calendar year where our year started off in January. So what I would like to do is, being that our second meeting of December is our very last opportunity for the village to approve a budget, is that I'll call that our annual meeting. At that annual meeting, I'll be asking all of our commissions, whether it be just the chair or the commission itself, to give a brief presentation at that annual meeting, so that way everybody could still be on board with what our commissions are doing. Trustee Kumar.
So, but if these ordinances pass it, are we talking about the new commissions or the old commissions? Because who is going to purport into any of the new commissions and have this discussion? Who's going to be in there? Who's on the new commissions?
What do you mean, who's on the new commissions?
Well, if we're changing the commissions, who's on the new commissions? How are we going to find the people on the new commissions?
So how did we do it in the past, Trustee Kumar?
I don't care. I want to know how we do it now.
You don't care how we did it in the past?
No, I'm not. It doesn't matter to me how we did it in the past. I want to do it right now.
Well, because we are doing right now what we have done in the past, and it's kind of upsetting to see that you don't care.
In the ordinances. If it's wrong,
So
let's fix it.
But this is what the discussion's about. I mean, just read the ordinances, read the policies that are in there.
I saw what the policies are. I don't like some of the
Okay.
policies. I'd like our legal counsel to explain exactly the policies with regards to membership in our commissions.
As a
Are you-
trustee,
Okay.
Yes.
Are you done then?
I'm asking legal.
Okay.
Trustee Kumar, first, the answer to your question is that the appointments will be made by the village president with the advice and consent of the village board. Those are the names that will be listed on an upcoming agenda following the change of the committee structures.
And that's how we've always done it.
I understand that, and I would like to change that.
And so,
I would like to propose that the ordinance changes then to have the trustees involved in the ordinance. And basically, what I'd like to say is that the village post a public notice, and that applications be reviewed by the president and a liaison trustee, and a candidate that is recommended and formally voted by the board. And that would be a more efficient way and a more appreciated way of installing people in the commissions, rather than the village president deciding who goes on all the commissions and telling us who goes on the commissions. And I agree that maybe in the past that was the way, but I would prefer that we change to a new mechanism if we're doing something more efficiently.
Trustee, much of the policy you're talking about is embedded within each ordinance in terms of how many members and how are those members chosen. Most of each of these ordinances are identical with the exception of what the individual roles are. So that's the policy in there. Meaning difference between Garden Village and, community rec.
Some
Everything
have 5,
else.
Some have 7.
That's only exists in the zoning board of appeals because that's statutory that it has to be 7 members. Everyone else is 5 members. What you're talking about, your suggestions, and then you've put forth some here, I would suggest, just as we did with what the other trustees has suggested, if there's language you want added into the ordinances, and if it's a policy that you want on each of the ordinances, then I would ask you to, propose that and make it part of the ordinances then that come forward at the next meeting.
Absolutely, I will do that.
Is there any other discussion?
Yep.
Any other discussion on 4D? So, just to clarify, Bloomington, Joliet, Lake Villa, Wilmette, Winnetka, Chicago, and St. Charles
Not St. Charles, West.
are all following the same example as what we're proposing here and having them split. And when you look at St. Charles in particular, they are doing it very well.
It's West Chicago.
So each municipality is different in its own. It has the opportunity to choose how it wants to move forward. So when you say that, you said Hinsdale, some other places along those lines, what I'm getting at is that each municipality has that opportunity to decide. We are not doing anything different, as is the municipalities that I just listed are ones doing it that we are proposing as well. So, with that being said, no more discussion on that. We're going to go to 4E. Do we have discussion on 4E, which is an ordinance of the Village of Villa Park, DuPage County, Illinois, amending Articles 22, 30, and 32 of Chapter 2 of the Villa Park Municipal Code, dissolving the Traffic and Safety Commission, the Video Production Commission, and the Special Events Review Committee. Trustee Cordova.
I think for me, and overall and in general, I do want to know, or I just want to say that, again, thank you to a lot of those commissioners and every commissioner that has found themselves on now a dissolved commission that is no longer needed and your time is no longer asked for. Just a thank you. I know we had a public comment that kind of went through some of those. I think the other piece is we do need to think about how we mend that bridge with those folks, because they are residents, they are volunteers, they have given years and years of their time to do this, and we still haven't acknowledged the pain and the hurt that they've gone through with these changes. And I think that may be something, along with this ordinance E here, or item E, is something that we could think about and kind of have a discussion on. Is are we going to recognize that this has happened, and then what is our plan? I know I've gone and spoke to a tremendous amount of commissioners, current as well as some of the future ones, and just trying to get a sense of how the overall vibe of these changes are, and there's a lot of uncertainty. There's a lot of pain that's happened to some of these folks, and I do want to say that you are heard. I understand that. I know this is business, but at the core of it, this is us saying no to people that want to raise their hand, and I do think that is going to have to be something that we recognize, number one, and then number two, we take action on. How can we say thank you? Is there, I know we have a commission or a committee thank you dinner, which we just had a couple months ago. Is that something we can do? I'm not sure. So this is up for discussion, and I'd love to hear what anyone else thinks about that.
Trustee Constados?
Yes, thank you. I'd like to say that I don't think that we haven't gotten to that point yet, and for anybody to assume that we would never acknowledge the volunteers who have been doing this for so long and or come up with some sort of a thank you, whether it be a party or plaques or whatever the case may be. I mean, we're not there yet. So I think that when people say, like, we're kicking them to the curb or whatever the words people are using, we're firing them, we're this, we're that, we're still in discussion. Nothing's happened yet. Nothing's happened. And there's a lot of assumptions being made, and to say that we wouldn't do anything, well, we haven't even gotten there, and I agree. Yes, we definitely should, if this goes through, acknowledge our volunteers and thank them for their time. And I would hope that, being that they all have gotten up here and been so passionate about talking about their volunteering time and how they love their commissions, that they would, even though they would still want to help the new people coming on. I mean, this is still our village, and to punish the new people, it's like punishing them. There's other people too that want to be on the commissions, and I think that sometimes we're forgetting their feelings as well. So yes, I agree. There should be, if this goes through, I agree with you, Trustee Cordova, that we should acknowledge the help that has been here for all these years. We should do something, whether it's a party or whatever. But I think that that's something that we discuss if and when this passes. And that's all I have to say, other
Trustee
than
O'Fonnell?
thank you.
Thank you. I think that it's a little premature to say anything like now dissolved because we haven't taken a vote yet. I do know that tension is high. I do know that there are still emotions. I don't think they're as raw as they were before. And I think that we're now able to have conversation where it feels respectful and it feels like we can understand kind of where everybody is coming from. And I think that this is where we need to be to have those discussions and to make some decisions that need to be made for the future of Villa Park. With that said, I know that in discussion with our former village manager, there was discussion of having that, we did have a dinner that we would host. He had suggested doing that every other year. I was going to wait until my trustee report to suggest that perhaps that's something that we do this year as well. I think that that's something that we should do to have people come together. And I can talk more about that in trustee report. But going back to 4E, I have some difficulty with the special events review committee, and I do understand that that's not really a thing right now, but I'm wondering if that is something that we could tailor into something that could help with like Summerfest or the Fall Fest, or it becomes this kind of commission where there are some people whose schedules might not, maybe they're not here in the wintertime, maybe they're here in the summer, maybe they're not here in the summer, but they're here in the winter, and they would like to participate and volunteer. I know a couple of people who that kind of schedule would fit. They can't commit to a full year or a full 3 years consecutively, but they would like to be a part of something here in the community. And I'm wondering if that is something that we could look at, maybe creating a space for volunteers, that it could be more of an event kind of commission rather than a commission that it meets monthly or meets more regularly, where they're utilized by other commissions, if that makes any sense.
Sure. Trustee Kumar.
A couple of things. Traffic and safety is a pretty common commission among a lot of commissions, and I was there recently. They address a lot of issues. Again, I feel like in the streamlining, making a commission, making recommendations, whatever you say, whatever plaque you give volunteers, having worked for various volunteer organizations, it doesn't matter. They will feel thrown out. They will not feel happy. And some will be great champions in helping the new commissioners as they come on. Most will leave. They will set up commissions outside of the village. They will start processes outside of village processes, and we will not get credit as a board for any of it. What will happen is what happens in many of the places I work. There will be a turnaround, a new board comes in, there will be a turnaround again, a new board comes in, there will be a turnaround once again. That kind of process is not what we're looking for. We're looking for long-term, right? Long-term alignment with the strategic plan, long-term alignment with our comprehensive plan. So if we're going to make long-term changes, we need to work through the ordinances to make those long-term changes so they hold in the long term, stay long-term, and stay technology sufficient, right? I had made a suggestion that there be some of these commissions. I know, trustee Alfano, some of these commissions that meet for a particular reason. And one of these commissions I made as a suggestion was called a mediation commission, if you remember. And the mediation commission is just a support commission, a support commission for neighbors who are working through a tough time. And that commission thought actually came from a friend of trustee Costatos's problems, right? We need certain commissions, we need certain activities to be done in this village. We are very short-staffed. I asked Manager Rivas if we had any ability to mediate, and we do not have mediation personnel. We do not have also the funds to hire someone of that sort. So that kind of commission could use new volunteers. But they don't need to meet always, right? They don't need to meet always. They could be a subcommittee. We have a subcommittee structure. One of the biggest problems we have with our present subcommittee structure that we need to change in many of our commissions is that subcommittee structure says that the people on the subcommittee need to be from the actual original committee. We don't need that. We can have subcommittees or task forces that have different people. That's totally fine. They have their own autonomy. I'm fine with that. You can call it a task force, you can call it a subcommittee, same thing, right? That is fine. But the discussion of who gets put on this board and them deciding after you decide before, if you prospectively decide who goes on a commission and then allow them to decide, that is micromanaging the commission. Who goes on the commission should be decided by the commissioners applying through a process. They apply. It doesn't matter if they weren't chosen in the past. We're going to choose them now. Why not?
So just to
Why
clarify.
can't they apply?
Just to clarify, you're saying that you want the commissions to pick the members who join their commission?
No, to clarify, I want the commissions to be such that the commissioners, whoever they want to be, whatever commission they're on, they apply through a process and it gets vetted through the process. The commissions don't get to choose who the commissioners are. That is not a fair way of addressing it. And the board and the liaison or whoever brings these people to the board. You brought a lot of volunteers on board, Kevin. With your discussion in the meeting prior, right? You brought a whole set of volunteers on board into the new commissions. I'm not against those commissioners. What I want to know is how are we going to keep a nice, friendly combination between those commissioners and the old commissioners to have a good give and take.
Well, what I will say is that I agree with some of what you said there, especially about subcommittee membership and what have you, but what is the way that we currently vet our commissioners?
The way that we've vetted them is they just are self-chosen.
But
They
so
choose to
all of
apply.
our members on the commissions right now, how did they get on those commissions?
Many of them self-applied. If you take I was at environmental concerns, they apply.
Okay.
And they get chosen.
So you're saying, though, that we need to restructure a way that's formalized in how they apply and get onto commissions.
Absolutely. That's exactly.
I can't agree with you more. That's what we're talking about here. Okay.
So that's what I've been talking about, policies and procedures since day one, the beginning of this meeting.
Okay. Is there any other discussion on 4E? Any other discussion on 4E? Any other discussion on 4E? Okay. Seeing none, do I have a motion for adjournment?
I'll make that motion.
Motion by trustee Constados, seconded by trustee Kozar. Roll call vote.
Trustee Alfano.
Yes.
Trustee Cordova.
Yes.
Trustee Cosatos.
Yes.
Trustee Kozar.
Yes.
Trustee Kumar.
Yes.
Trustee Sabri.
Yes.
All right, We are adjourned. We will re-adjourn in 5 minutes at 8 o'clock to start our normal Village Board of Trustees meeting.